would almost equate these to the cell towers.
Yes.
You know, the cell towers were first coming about, private landowners were on Pocket Street and a couple other places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, realistically, like, one thing we're discussing is, you know, does town already generate enough land for someone to actually want to go in here and would it be worth it? But it does seem to be the planning commission is about doing so.
You guys are just leaning forward, and I think it's actually a very good idea.
Okay, and the next item on the list here from CPC is accept the public footway bicycle path on 53 Spruce Road.
Oh, yes. 53 Spruce Road was a parcel of land that a gentleman came in. There's been an empty lot in that subdivision next to it. He needed to purchase 53 Spruce Road in order to meet his setbacks to install a septic system. And what happened at the time was we had town council research it. It turned out that it was never actually deeded over to the town during street acceptance back in like 1995 or something. So what this does is pretty much legalize the process for it to become a pedestrian bike path that connects, not completely, but connects.
It's Spruce Road to Old Farm.
Yes.
Then you got street acceptances, McIntyre Estates, McIntyre Woods, Agatha Way, Deer Run, East Hamilton Estate Subdivision, and 10 Rod Road.
Yeah, altogether there are 14 roads. This is just like perfect writing on paper. It was submitted for road acceptance, but so there are 14 roads altogether. We're having our public hearings August 31st. I already submitted the plans to the town engineer and CPC consulting engineer. I believe they started going out and doing inspections to come to us with any outstanding items for yours. So when we have our public hearing prior to yours, I'll be able to give you a punch list on, you know, any outstanding items. What happens a lot, I will say generally, I've seen in the past, a lot of people submit inevitably several drop off because they can't.
Yeah.
can't make
Yeah,
the
but these are the,
Watch out tonight when we get back on the stage as well, so.
so these are the ones that are currently.
These are all the file.
Can I just
Okay.
ask a
Go
quick
ahead.
question? Some of these, I believe, are pretty old.
They are. McIntyre alone came in 2006.
Is that typically the process, 10 years to get to something like this?
I believe so. Like we sent out letters. What had happened was, which was great, was that when the new DPW director came on, he had indicated to us, right, the town gets more money back for
Right.
what they accept. So we had sat down, he had suggested sending out a letter to any people who looked like they may be eligible for street acceptance. So that was what we did. So I'm sure we had a great response. The developers that were good.
Okay.
Most of them will get their punches done. And then my only other question is, do I need to do anything for the water, for the economic impact, other than what? Do I have to draft something for that?
We already have that.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right,
we have that.
all right.
You're off the.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
You're
Heidi,
welcome.
thank you.
And make
So-
sure you get copies.
So we cover the rest of these just for informational, not required to take any votes on it. We'll have budget amendments. Greg, you want to comment on that?
The only item that I'm aware of at this time is the amount to restore funding for the police and fire department budgets, $40,000 for each, and the source of funds will be the FEMA account. There's no other pressing needs that the administration is aware of at this time, although it's always possible something will creep up, but that's the only item that we're keeping an eye on. The prior year bills have to do with typically with medical claims. It seems that the time that I've been here, every year at every town meeting, we have some medical bills that lag behind. They're bills that relate to disabled public safety employees, and under the statute, the town has an obligation to pay for certain medical services for disabled police officers and firefighters. They receive treatment throughout the year, and what ends up happening is the bills get submitted after the deadline for processing of the warrants, which is the second week in July. The amount that we have at this point looks as though it's in the range of about $700. will determine a source of funding and pay it, but it's again for medical services related to public safety personnel. The capital improvement plan is, guidelines have been issued. The departments are diligently putting together their plans. I intend to make a presentation to you at your next meeting along with my recommendations for the fiscal 2011 capital improvement plan. As you know, it'll include a mix of items that we'll pay for out of free cash and others that we'll borrow for. I don't anticipate that there'll be anything that we're requiring for debt or capital. It's really going to be out-of-pocket expenses. In the past, we've been done a better job in maintaining our buildings, and we've fallen behind on some of our vehicle replacements. So I don't expect, I'm not anticipating that there will be major capital projects. As a matter of fact, I did hear from the school department today that they do not have any capital proposals to bring before town meeting under the capital improvement plan. So it will be strictly municipal departments that will have requests. And I believe it was last year we had entertained requests in the range of about $1 million. Typically, that's the amount of money that we start off with, and then the list is prioritized according to the amount of funds that we have available. What I'd like to do is, the same thing that we did this year, is leave a balance of money available for the April town meeting. It doesn't make sense to spend it on capital and then be scrambling for funding sources in April. So we want to go forward with an amount of money held in reserve for the April town meeting. Do that with the understanding that there will be expenses that we have not anticipated at this point that we may require to do budget transfers or appropriations for in the spring.
My question on the capital.
Go ahead, Michael.
Are we gonna see anything in that capital improvement plan related to IT?
We should. And I haven't seen it yet, Michael, that's why I'm saying I'm elusive, because they're doing, and until they're doing, I haven't looked at them yet.
Just curious.
The,
Amendment of the town code, section 158.9, the board had indicated a placeholder. I had also indicated to you at the last meeting that we were waiting for a legal opinion from council that will direct us in terms of what changes the town needs to make to be in compliance. Certainly, if the board has any recommendations, positions that it wishes to propose for amending the bylaw, this is the appropriate time to do it, but we really need to hear from council in terms of the impact of the Supreme Judicial Court decision that related to liability, increased liability and risk to sidewalks and public ways that aren't clean, or even private properties.
two things, Greg. I know we're waiting for a general letter from council because they've got so many clients that are involved. Any time frame? Have they be able to extract a time frame?
Council happens to be on vacation this week, so I will touch base with him upon his return.
And then second is, I think as a board, we felt that we needed a plan from DPW.
Right.
Associated with dealing with the town's ways. And, you know, obviously we're doing snow plowing on the sidewalks that are involved with the pathways to the schools. The big issue was, were we doing our share out on Route 62? And now that there's this Supreme Court ruling, you know, I think as soon as we get a reading from town council, I think I'd like to have Dick come back with a plan as to how he would propose dealing with those specific issues. The bylaw doesn't cover what DPW is doing, but I think DPW policy would deal with the
We
rest
had
of
the
it.
issue on Route 28 as to the segment of town-owned land that we weren't maintaining properly, that we wanted addressed as a board.
Mhm.
And then we also wanted clarification as to what our intentions were in relation to the enforcement of the current bylaw, commercial.
And just as an update, in case it wasn't mentioned, Sean and I and Greg have been meeting with the chamber quarterly. In our last meeting, that was obviously on their list again. And I told them that, you know, our intent was to enforce the bylaw. And that, you know, they have ample warning this time around. They had an excuse last time that they hadn't, you know, signed up contractors to do that specific work. But I do think we still owe them an answer as to what the DPW is going to do associated with those connecting areas. And I know Dick has taken, that under his advisement.
And we're sending equipment out there anyway. And again, I forget how many feet or miles we're doing, 28. Will the town want to get into contracting, do it?
Dick seemed to not want to, and I think it was more related to the fact that, their first line of defense is the roads, and they wouldn't get to it until later in the process. But, I think it'd be fair to ask him to come back and talk to him about it again.
But again, he's gonna hit those sidewalks out there, wherever he's gonna hit those sidewalks
Well,
out there.
that's why we're waiting to see
You know, so it's,
what his
whether
plan
it's-
is,
I mean,
because
the
I
roads
think
first, the sidewalk second, that makes sense, since we're pushing it on the sidewalk
I think in the
first.
past, though, we've done nothing, right? Not to my
Pretty
knowledge,
much.
out there.
But, we may want to, offer the service for the price. When you think of some additional liability that will have, put your equipment out there anyway.
I think one of the big issues has been, the business owners, when they do their driveway plowing and everything, they've just kind of ignored the sidewalk, and snow has been piled high in the corners of the, between the driveways and the edge of the sidewalks. And, I would hope as a result of them knowing now they have to do something, they'll have their contractors deal with that a little differently, which will help.
But they've also
Mr.
taken-
Chair? I'm sorry.
Okay, okay.
I think our experience last year was pretty obvious that the business community, I think, pretty much responded very well to removing the snow. Even they've adjusted to make sure they did the sidewalks, and I thought they responded very well. My question is that the state law, or what was passed by the Supreme Court, does that have any requirements on state municipalities or local municipalities and what their role is on the removal of snow? I don't recall seeing that in the article.
That's what we're waiting for from town council.
Okay, so I didn't see anything mentioned that, so they were just talking about businesses and residents and their responsibility for the removal of snow.
That's why we forwarded the question to council, and a number of communities is what are the obligations of municipalities in view of the decision that came out.
Okay.
And by the way, it's not unusual for the municipalities and state government to be exempt from the rules that they apply to
I
everybody else.
suspect that the state and city and towns are exempt. I suspect that.
Well, I don't,
Whether that's right or wrong, that's a
We're gonna-
different conversation.
We're gonna
Well-
wait and find out, we're gonna have that information prior to our
We will.
October town meeting, at which point, we will either pass over the article or make changes to the current bylaw.
If you skip down beyond the zoning articles, you'll see acceptance of access easement agreement for Elm Street property. That was the matter that the board approved 2 weeks ago. Provide for an easement utilized by Linda Smith and her family and the town to utilize the bridges across that portion of the shore. That those require both the town meeting. The next is amending the town code, town regulations concerning water restrictions and use. And I understand the board's, perhaps this is something that has to wait until the spring, and that would be fine. Just to remind you, the purpose of it would be is to give the town some increased flexibility to adopt rules and regulations after the board holds a public hearing. So there wouldn't be, so to speak, anything cast in concrete in the bylaws in terms of what the rules and regulations would be. They would be subject to the board establishing them after a public hearing. But the second component, which is really vital, is to deal with property owners who have shown a disregard for the environment.
As a matter of fact, on my drive from my house here, I counted no less than 3 sprinklers running, and I didn't see any signs saying wells. And I mean, the people that are watering their lawns, you know, they can't hide it. You know,